We got some new improvements to the experimental bundle, Redstone, and minecarts. Hello there, Ray here, and we got a brand new snapshot for the upcoming 1.21.2 Java edition. This is snapshot 24W34A. And before we take a look at all of the new stuff, I just did a poll on my community tab, and it turns out that YouTube forgot to let you know about my new video on how I turned silverfish into a massive explosion to set a world record. And this can be fixed by going an extra step besides just clicking subscribe and clicking the notification bell, but then clicking this little arrow down to click on the word all. And we're so close to 400,000 subscribers, so thank you everyone who clicked the button. And thanks everybody who took part in the poll. By the way, I'll put that mentioned video down in the description so you guys can check it out after this one. Bundles got improved, and now they will show 3 rows of the items that are inside of them instead of just 2 rows like before. And if you have more items than just 4 rows worth, then they'll show up as being a plus number at the end of that. And now when you place items into the bundle, they're going to fill from the bottom right to the top left. And if you add another item that already has more items of the same type, it will stack with them and then move in front so that it is at the top of the bundle. And then when you want to pull an item out, it'll always pull from the last one you put in, while also retaining its empty slot. So notice there's an empty slot there, so when I place it in, it still goes back to the same slot. And if I would pull out an item from deeper inside the bundle, when I put it back in again, it's going to go into the first slot. They said they did this so that players can remember where stuff is, and it doesn't feel like everything's getting jumbled every time you pick items up and put them back in again. Now the downside to using the number keys to decide what item you're going to pull out of within the bundle, you can't actually use the number keys to move the bundle down into that hotbar slot like you can do with most things. If I push 1, I can move this into my 1 slot down here. If I push 1 on the bundle, it's just going to move it over there. So you have to manually grab the bundle and put it over here. Or what you can do is hover over top of it and press the F key to put it in your main hand, and then switch your main hand item with something in your hotbar by pressing F again. And that way you can move it around different slots without actually using the number key. This is what speedrunners use to reorganize their inventory while they're on the run, so they don't have to open their inventory and lose time. So what do you think of these new bundle changes? They fixed several bugs related to the experimental minecarts. This minecarts being placed in the opposite direction and then turning will no longer happen. Minecarts will no longer clip right through blocks when there's an incline like this. Minecarts and bubble columns will no longer teeter back and forth violently. Minecarts will no longer do this constant wobbling when they're stuck between 2 descending rails. Now they'll sit nicely right in the center. Minecarts that are placed on unpowered rails will no longer just sit there mid-air, and instead will rotate their body slope-wise. And this problem of minecarts not picking up mobs that were right beside the rail is also fixed in the newest snapshot. Minecarts that get launched off of but end up going through something like powder snow will no longer get zipped into the air extremely fast. And we can even see this in slow mode. If I increment the game by 1/20th of a second, you can see the minecart gets here, and then once it goes through the powder snow, all of a sudden it just gets launched directly up into the air. And you can see the previous one is finally coming down after zipping hundreds of blocks up in the air. And then they come back down to the ground eventually. Minecarts that are off-centered a little bit will now keep their off-centeredness when they fall downwards rather than snap all the way to the very center of the rail. This is useful for aligning minecarts in particular locations, such as inside of my AFK cherry leaf farm. Minecarts are placed on curved rails will also now immediately be placed in the right location, just like they were before. When trying to place a second minecart onto a spot where there's already a minecart, this would cause the minecart to vanish from the inventory, but this was just a ghost item. If you click here, it would re-update. So now you'll no longer get ghost items from doing this, and instead you won't be able to place in a second minecart. You can once again add more minecarts onto a track just by using a dispenser to put them on there. But you can't do this in survival, so I can't just add more minecarts by clicking on the rail down here. But as you guys point out, you can still drop minecarts on top of each other, so that if I break this minecart here, I broke one, and if I break again, I can break the second one. So by doing this, you could get enough minecarts to actually get entity cramming, even with these current minecart changes. Now with all these current changes to the experimental minecarts, it makes me think that they are trying to put this into a full release somewhat relatively soon. Rather than if you compare this to like the villager rebalancing experimental stuff, they really didn't put too much more effort into changing that so that it's more accepted by the players so that they could actually get it out into a future full release. Now, I think most people won't mind the minecart changes as long as they get it somewhat like it was before, while also getting their new smooth motion that they're going for. Now, when it came to the redstone experimental changes, they also came in and fixed some problems like this one here, where this redstone block is powering this wire here. The wire goes up onto this slab here and is still powered, and since the wire is pointing into this block as well as back towards its piston, it is powering this piston. That's why it's extended, and since it's constantly being powered, it shouldn't make any difference if we would power this block here, which also is going to power this line. You can see when we power and then unpower this lever here, all of a sudden this power here gets removed for some reason. And this is not intended because it should be constantly powered from this block down here, so it will no longer do this. They applied the directional buttons and levers to more things, so notice that this lever is pointing into this line here, meaning that this piston will get updated before this piston, because the new redstone update order will update things in front before updating things on the side. So this will not be a random circuit, and if we do a similar thing on here where this lever is pointing to there, that piston will always have priority over that one. But the same updating order was not being applied if you had the piston getting power from a lever that was on top of a block. Now you can see all of a sudden it is random. So this will no longer be random, and instead we'll be updating this piston first. And the same thing applies to buttons as well. Now if the lever is facing this way, same direction as this redstone line here, I'll always update this piston first. But if we change it to this direction, now the other piston will update first. Although you can get the other piston to extend if you go really fast while one of the pistons is in cooldown. And if there is an even fork in the road and power is going into that, instead of being random, it'll always choose the left route for the redstone, so it's gonna go left and go this way. So that way you can make stuff not random if you don't want it to be. And if the redstone line is getting powered directly from above without any context to direction, such as this redstone block here, then it will act as randomness. Now in the previous snapshot I talked about this problem here, where in the past if you would quasi-connectivity this piston here and then give it an update from a block nearby like a redstone does here, it would then update this piston, making it extend. You can see it was no longer doing that. That's because they reduced the number of updates these redstone lines make, which does help on lag but has this negative consequence. And in today's snapshot they actually put out a message saying that they will come back and address this problem at a later point. So it will be interesting to see how they overcome this problem. Are they going to come in with a different type of redstone that will do these type of updates, or we get a new type of block that will do these type of updates while also being very similar to the actual dust? And if you've seen my past videos, I talked about how Mojang sort of leaked that the blackstone blocks could not be used in a lot of redstone component crafting recipe because they're going to be used in a different recipe in the future. So maybe that recipe is something related to a special type of piston that will actually accept these type of updates, or some type of special redstone components, as well as other types of redstone components that are all related to the blackstone. Let me know how you think they're going to solve this issue. They've made another improvement to crafting, so once you have selected something you want to craft and you've actually crafted it, as long as you haven't left the crafting table, you can press spacebar and this will craft the exact same item that you did before without actually having to go over here and click this button over here. So I can press space, space, space. You can see now I can collect all my items from over here. Once again, this is quite useful. It just happens that now we have auto crafters, so we don't use crafting tables as much to do mass crafting. Now they change how the breeze shoots its wind charges. Before it would shoot them from the center of its body, where now it will shoot them like the breeze from the actual eye position where the red lines are. Now this would change my little teeny redstone machine, which can instant kill stuff like the dragon, warden, and wither, where it collects the breeze's wind charges and then it will push them all to the side and then push them all the way up. The only difference is now the wind charges will be a little bit higher up, but since they get moved anyways when they get aligned, it won't really matter. You can learn more about this machine, like how you can launch yourself really high in the sky or kill stuff, all in this video here. They also resolved this problem where enchanting tables were completely broken in the previous snapshot, including enchanted items not showing their glitter when dropped on the ground. Also, written books can now actually have their name being changed, when before if you would write something in here, it wouldn't actually change its name on the book. This had to do with some changes that they made in the previous snapshot related to written books. They accidentally made it so that adult mushrooms and their babies look exactly the same, Even though if we turn on these hitboxes, you can see the baby is actually only this big. So they made the baby small once again. When baby zombies would try to attack you, notice their hands will all of a sudden just pop right out of their shoulders when they attack you. Man, that looks just crazy. Now that bug has been squished. There's also a similar problem with baby polar bears. Look at them. Their legs are so stretched out and their head as well. Oh my goodness, I feel so bad for them. Look at them go. They put the player's head back to normal. When crawling, you can see it was doing this weird thing where the player was planting their face directly into the ground rather than looking forward like you actually appear to be. So unless your player has eyes coming out the top of their head, this would not make much sense. Now when they change it so you can no longer put lava directly into cauldrons that are underneath the water, it's also accidentally made it so you couldn't even put in water inside of a cauldron. So you'll be able to do this once again. And if you want your lava cauldron to be in water, you can always push it in with a piston, or you can put it in first and then let the water go into it. When they changed torches, it accidentally removed the bottom of the torches, so there should be a little bit of a wood piece underneath of them, and they're missing here. Also, what's your guys' opinions on the new torch look? Projectiles that get thrown at the world border will now bounce off of them, which is pretty cool, kind of like a force field, instead of kind of getting stuck inside them like they did before. I forgot to mention that string duping was also removed in the previous snapshot. That's where you would have string and have water come in and destroy the string, where you would end up with more string than what you started with on the ground. Now, although string duping could be really fast if you put several of these farms together, we still got some really nice methods to get large amounts of string, like through piglin bartering. You get this as a byproduct while getting other useful blocks as well. And you can always make like a spider farm, or if you just want some wool, you can make like a wool farm. And large amounts of string isn't really used that often. And even things that they can be crafted, you typically get them from other means, like bows and fishing rods come from AFK fishing. You get tons of crossbows from like raid or pillager farms. No one really needs a ton of bundles or leads or looms. And rather than crafting wool, you can just get wool from like a wool farm. But what do you guys think of the string dupe being removed? But there is some other types of the string dupe that still work. Like you can see, I just got an excess amount of string from this setup right here. And also the tripwire dupe also still works, where you can get these tripwires that drop while still being there. They also fix several bugs related to the visuals of things, also things that happen in creative as well as in data packs. They also fixed several different crashes that were accidentally introduced with last week's changes related to inventories and creative and spectator mode. And both of the data pack and the resource pack got several updates to keep up with all the current changes. Now come check out me experimenting with these new changes over at my Twitch livestream, link in the description. Otherwise, if you haven't seen this crazy silverfish explosion machine, it's linked down below. Not much thanks to all my monthly supporters, and I will see you guys over there. Bye bye!